Hey everyone, welcome back to the React.js course. So in this video, we'll be exploring about how to build a Redux card system inside of our React application. And if you find this interesting, let's get started right away.
So in this video, we'll be exploring about how to build a basic kind of card system using Redux inside of our React application. So in our previous videos, we went and explored about how to build a card system using the React context API. Okay, so in this video, we'll be following the Redux toolkit to implement a basic kind of card system. Okay, so talking about Redux, so Redux is basically used to prevent the prop drilling process. So we have already discussed and explored the prop drilling process with the help of an example in our previous videos. So in this video, we'll be following the method that is basically the Redux toolkit method inside of our React application to implement the basic functionalities, that is the add to cart functionality and the remove from cart functionality inside of our cart. Okay, so for that, inside my app.js, as you can see, firstly let me explain the boilerplate code that is present. Okay, so inside our src folder we have our home screen that is initialized. Okay, so inside our app.js we have imported our home screen, as you can see, and inside our home screen we have a basic div that is being returned, and we have a h3 tag, as you can see. Okay, so we'll be so over here inside our home screen we have the images data. So currently we'll be making use of the local data, okay, to show the items on our screen. So over here inside my home screen we have a images array. So over here the images array pretty much contains 3 items, and each of the item has a unique ID, a image attribute as well as a name attribute. So based on this data we'll be implementing the Redux card system. Okay, so the first step is to let's display these images onto our web page. Okay, so let's come back to our home screen. Okay, we are in the home screen, so let's make use of the let's say the map function, and then let's render all the products. Okay, so we're gonna say firstly let's access images. It's gonna be images.map. Let's access the item, and let's also give the index for this. Okay, let's say we want to return a new component for each of the item that is present inside the images array. So for that reason, let me create a new component over here inside our src folder. So let's name it let's say product for now. So it's gonna be product.js. Okay, let's type in rfce. Let's save the file. Let's come back to our home screen. So for each and every item inside our images array, as we are mapping through it, we're going to return the product component, right? So let's import it from the product file as such and save the file. Okay, so now we are going to pass in some props, that is basically the data. So we're going to pass in the item itself, and we are also going to pass the key value, that's going to be the index, right? So now let's save the file, and let's remove this h3 text, that is the home screen. Okay, so let's come into our product page and let's check out our web page. Yeah, so you can see 3 products being rendered on the screen because of the map function. So since we have 3 products inside, I mean 3 items inside our images array, so each time the map function works, it's going to render this product component. So inside our product component, since we have a basic product tag that is inside our div, so we are that's the reason we are getting 3 times product, right? So now let's receive the data as props, pretty much the item over here. So let's say item like this, and let's remove this out. And the first thing we want here is the image. Okay, let's show the image, and let's provide the source to this. So the source is gonna be item.image itself. Okay, so if you check out the data over here, to access the image, it's gonna be item.image. So save the file, and let's provide some basic inline styling itself over here to the image. Let's provide a width of, let's say 100, and a height of 100. Okay, and a slight border radius of, let's say 5, and then let's save the file once. Let's come to our web page. Okay, yeah, we can see the images coming up on the screen. So for the div, let's give some basic styling. Okay, that is basically padding, internal spacing, and a margin of 20, that is the external spacing. So let's save the file once, and yeah, so you can see the spacing coming out correctly. So the next thing we want to render is I think we have the name attribute as well. So for that reason, after the image tag, we're going to say a h3 tag, and it's going to be item dot name. So that's the way we access the name. So save the file. Yeah, so we are getting the correct name of that particular product. Okay, so the next thing we have is a button attribute. So this is basically for to add to the cart or to remove from cart. Okay, so let's write that out. Add to cart, and let's give it some basic width. Okay, let's say a width of 100 again for this. So let's save the file. Yeah, so there you go, we are able to see the button, the add to cart button. So let's provide some margin top to this. Okay, so we're gonna say margin top of 5. Yeah, so you can see that margin top being applied to the button. So the next step is let's say we introduce the Redux. Okay, so for that reason we need to install the dependencies. Okay, so here let's press on new terminal. We are going to add first React Redux. So we're going to say yarn add React Redux, and let's press on enter. So let this install. So the next thing we need to install is the Redux Toolkit. Okay, so let's go over here and let's press on get started, and we're going to install it using yarn. So let's copy this piece of code. All right, and again let's come over here and paste it over here. Let's remove the hashtag, that's basically this code, and let's press on enter. Okay, so this should install the dependencies for Redux Toolkit. Okay, so the next step is we are going to create a slice that is basically for our cart. So let's come to our source folder and let's create a new file that is cart slice.js. Okay, so inside our cart slice we can start writing the code for the Redux. Okay, that is basically the functionality to the add to cart functionality and the remove from cart functionality. We're going to be writing the code for that now. So firstly we need to import some details, that is basically the create slice. So this is going to come from the toolkit itself, so let's import that. Okay, so next we'll be writing export const create slice. Okay, we're going to say export const cart slice equals to create slice. So this is going to take in an object. Okay, so the first thing we provide over here is the name. So for now let's give it a cart since we are building a cart system. Okay, so after this we're going to have is the initial state. So let's say initial state of any cart system is since we have a cart system, so the cart is essentially going to contain, let's say, an array of items. So for that reason we'll be making use of an array. Okay, so at the beginning stage when no items are present inside our cart, it will be an empty cart. So for that reason we're going to say cart and we're going to pass in an empty array. Okay, so that's the initial state. So after this we have is the reducers where we write in the functionalities for the add to cart as well as the remove from cart. All right, so let's write in our reducers like this. This is an object, and the first thing is add to cart. Okay, so this is going to take in the state and action. Okay, okay, so inside our add to cart, so the first thing what we need to do is, so we need to check if an item is already present inside our cart. Okay, so if an item is already present inside our cart, then if the user presses on the add to cart button, then we need to simply increase the quantity of that particular item. All right, so in case the item is not present inside the cart and the user presses on the add to cart button for the first time, then we should add that particular item to our cart. That is basically the details of that particular item. Okay, so firstly we'll be making use of a condition, so let's write that out. So we're gonna say const item present equals to, firstly we'll be accessing our state. So if state dot cart dot, we'll be making use of the find method. So we're gonna check if the, okay, we're gonna access the item and we're gonna check if the item dot id equals to the action dot payload dot id. Okay, so this is the way we write the condition on line number 11. So this condition pretty much states that basically we are checking if the item is present inside our cart or not. So in case this condition becomes true, okay, so we're gonna say if item is present, then we are gonna say state dot cart dot quantity plus plus. Okay, so we're just going to increase the quantity, okay, by 1, or we can just write item present dot quantity plus plus. Okay, so if that's not the case, what we do is we're going to come inside our else condition. Okay, so in the else condition, it only goes into the else condition if the user is pressing on the add to cart button for the first time. Okay, so in that case we're going to say state dot cart dot push basically the action dot payload, and we're going to pass in a quantity of 1 for that particular item, since it's the first time this particular item is being pushed into the cart. Okay, so that's the way we write the add to cart functionality. So the next thing we want to write is remove from cart. Okay, so let's say remove from cart. So this is again going to take in the state and action. Okay, so over here we're going to say const remove item. So over here what we're going to do is we'll be making use of the filter method, and we'll filter out the particular item that the user presses on based on the ID. Okay, so we're going to say state dot cart dot filter. We're going to access the item and we're going to say item, so filter out those items in which the item dot id is not equal to the action dot payload dot id. So whatever we give as the action dot payload, right? So we are going to filter out these particular items when the user presses on the remove from cart. Okay, so we're going to say state dot cart equals to remove item. So that's the way we write remove from cart. Okay, I think these two are the basic functionalities we'll be looking into inside our Redux cart, that is basically the add to cart functionality and the remove from cart functionality. So let's again look into these. Okay, so in the add to cart, basically firstly we are checking if the item is already present with the help of this condition, okay, by making use of the find method. So in case the item is present, then we are simply increasing the quantity of that particular item, right? So if that's not the case, then we are basically pushing the payload, that is whatever we give, and then we are adding another attribute, that is quantity of 1 for that particular item. Okay, so in case the user presses on remove from cart, we'll be filtering the that particular item based on the ID, and we'll be removing that item from the cart. Okay, so now we'll be exporting the required values. So we're going to say export const basically add to cart remove from cart equals to cart slice dot actions. Okay, so we're going to say export default cart slice dot reducer. Okay, so I think that's it for the export statements. So let's save the file. So the next thing we need to include in the Redux tool, in the Redux cart, is the store. So let's create the store file over here. So store.js. So I think we need to import create store. So let's say import create. Okay, so I think it's configure. Okay, so inside our store.js, firstly we need to import the configure store. So we're going to say import configure store from the Redux toolkit. So we're going to say export default configure store. Over here this is going to take in basically the reducers. Okay, so we're going to pass in reducer, and let's give it a name that is basically cart, and we're going to say the cart reducer. Okay, so let's import the cart reducer from the correct file. Okay, so this is not create reducer, it should be cart reducer. So let's say cart reducer, let's import it manually. So we're going to say import cart reducer from the cart slice, okay, as such. So save the file. So now we have created our store basically inside our Redux. So now what we need to do is, for everything to work, we need to include the provider inside our app.js, okay. So where we have the div, let's remove that out and let's include the provider, and this is going to come from React Redux. So let's import that manually, by that one. So let's remove this also, and let us enclose our home screen within the provider. Okay, so we have the access to the store basically. So let's format it, and over here, so the provider is going to take a major attribute, that is the store. So let's write store, and we need to import the store, right? So let's say import store from the store file. Okay, so let's save the file. So in order to check if everything is correct, let's come back to our home screen and let's try to just console.log our cart. Okay, so we should get an empty array because the initial state is empty, right? So let's give that a try. So inside our home screen, we're gonna say const cart equals to use selector. So let's import use selector from React Redux, okay, and we're going to access the state from it, and we're going to say state dot cart. Okay, so we need to provide the name of the reducer that we have, that is where did the store go, that is basically this one. Okay, so state dot cart to access the cart value. Okay, so let's say console.log of cart and save the file. Okay, so let's come back to our web page over here. Let's console.log. Okay, so there you go, we are getting an empty array, as you can see. Okay, so we are getting an empty array because at the initial stage there is no items present inside our cart, right? So now what we need to do is, let's come back to our product. So the next step we do is, we will dispatch the items into the Redux store. Okay, and for that we'll be making use of the use dispatch hook, and then we'll be implementing that part. Okay, so over here, let's say const dispatch equals to use dispatch, and let's import it from React Redux. Okay, so over here you're gonna say on click, let's say add item to cart. Okay, so let's also include a function over here, and we are passing a parameter that is basically the payload. It's going to be the item itself. So item in the sense, we need to basically we are passing these data, that is the ID, the image, as well as the name, right? So over here inside a product, let's initialize this function, that is add item to cart. So it's going to be const add item to cart. It's going to take in the item as the parameter. Okay, so now what we need to do is, we'll be dispatching that particular value into the store. Okay, so over here dispatch is going to take the add to cart. So this is going to come from the cart slice. Okay, we need to import that functionality. So add to cart, import that from the cart slice, and the payload is going to be item. Okay, so that's it. So that's it about the add to cart functionality. Okay, so let's save the file. So now if you press on the add to cart button, we need to we will be seeing that particular item being added to our cart. Okay, so let us check that out. So currently we, as you can see, let's refresh once. So there is a empty array present. So if I press on the add to cart button, so there you go, we have added one item into the cart. Okay, so basically we have dispatched the image, the ID, as well as the name of this particular item to the Redux store, right? So if you check out this array, we have, as you can see, the ID of 0, this particular image, and even we have added the quantity of 1, and the name is going to be ice cream. Okay, so that's it about the add to cart functionality. Okay, so let's again check this out. So there you go. So since I added this the second time, what it did was it went to this condition. So inside our cart slice, it checked this condition. So this condition is pretty much true because this particular item is already present inside our cart, because we are checking this item.id equals to the action.payload.id. So that's the reason we are pretty much increasing the quantity by 1. Okay. So over here, as you can see, the quantity has become 2, and pretty much id 0 and image name remains the same, right? So the next thing we look into is the remove from cart functionality. So for that, let's come back to our product.js, and here we'll be making use of a condition. So let's access our cart like this. Let's import it. Let's import use selector basically over here. Okay, so the next thing we do is we will make a condition over here. So if cart dot, we'll be making use of the sum method inside of JavaScript. If, let's say, for any value, if the x dot id equals to the item dot id. Okay, so let's write it from the start. Okay, so if this is the case, I think let's just remove everything once. Yeah. So if the cart dot sum, so if the x dot id equals to the item.id that is present. In this case, the item is already present inside the cart, so we'll be showing the remove from cart button, right? Else we have no item present inside our cart, will be pretty much showing this add to cart button itself. So let's copy that out. Okay, so in the first thing, it should be a remove from cart. Okay, so let's save the file. Yeah, so as you can see, we have the first item inside our cart, so that's the reason it's showing remove from cart. Okay, so let's refresh the app from the beginning and let's look into it. Okay, so over here, let's change the function that is basically over here for the remove from cart. So remove item from cart. Okay, so we are gonna say const remove item from cart. It's going to take in the item basically, and we are going to say dispatch. So previously we had passed add to cart, so now we'll be passing remove from cart. Okay, so this is going to come from the cart slice itself. So let's check the correct spelling. So it's going to be remove from cart, this one. So let's write that out like this, and let's pass in the item. Okay, let's import remove from cart from the cart slice. Okay, so I think that's not coming. Let's just manually write it, remove from cart, and let's save the file. Okay, I think that's it about the functionality of the remove from cart. It should pretty much work. Okay, so yeah, let's give it a try. Now let's come back to the web page. So currently at the initial stage, there is no items added into our cart. So let's add pretty much the first item. Okay, yeah, so as you can see, we have added the first item into the cart. Let's add even the second item. Okay, so we have two items inside our cart, that is the first one and second one. As you can see, we have the id, image, and the other info as well. So let's say I press on the remove from cart button for the first item. Okay, yeah, so there you go, that's working absolutely fine. So we are basically filtering out based on id, as I already told, and we'll be removing that particular item from our cart. Okay, so currently we have only this item, that is the biscuit. So we have id of 1, image of this, and the name of biscuit. Okay, so quantity is going to be again 1. So if I press on remove from cart for this as well, even that is gone, and we should see an empty array again. Okay, so pretty much we can see all the functionalities working absolutely fine. We can add items into the cart, remove items from the cart, and it's working absolutely fine. Okay, So I think that's it about the Redux cart system. We explored about how to dispatch events into the store by making use of the use dispatch hook. And inside our cart slice, we basically learned on how to create a new slice. So over here by making use of the name, and then we pass in the initial state, and after that we pass in the reducers. Basically we have two functionalities over here inside our cart system, that is the add to cart functionality and the remove from cart functionality. So as I already told, in the add to cart we're going to first check the condition, that is if it is already present. So if it is already present, then we are pretty much increasing the quantity, as we already saw in this example itself. And if the item is not at all present inside the cart and the user presses on the add to cart button, then we are adding that particular details of the item, and we are including another attribute, that is the quantity of 1. Okay, so whereas inside the remove from cart, we are again passing the state and action, and we are pretty much filtering out based on the id, right? So based on this condition we filter out the product, and we are pretty much implementing this functionality. Okay, so I think that's it about this video, that is the Redux cart system. If you like this video, give it a like, and I think that's it for this video. Let's see in the next video, and then thank you for watching.